like, oh, just randomly it starts. And like the comedy is that like our normal conversation is like embedded into the video a little bit.
I don't know. I guess so. Anyways, hello everyone. Welcome to Pride 2025 interview questions and answers. Yeah. How's that?
Yeah, it sounded good to me.
Great. Good
I don't know
enough.
if like the questions and answers part is necessary.
I don't know.
Like,
Maybe
that's
we
kind of
call
what
it
happens.
frequently asked questions.
Well, then I don't know if they're frequently asked because we're recording these in advance.
I don't know. That's what they did for Dice Throne.
Yeah, but they changed it.
All right.
Like there's a reason they changed it.
All right. Whatever. Anyways, say hello to our guest, Amy. Amy's been on this channel before a couple times. Amy, why don't you introduce yourself again?
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. If you are in the Darkstone world, you probably see me around at places. I do a lot of Darkstone related stuff. I am the world's biggest Darkstone autist. I am the owner of the Darkstone Humber community, where we make our own heroes. I am a competitive Darkstone player. As of this recording, I'm #1 in the Northeast. I run my own competitive team called Team DTH, where we try to get more queer people playing Darkstone. I run Pride Collection 2025, which is the set that is getting released this Pride month. I'm a writer for Darkstone, and I made some heroes for Pride Collection 2025. One of them is the hero we're talking about today, Card Draw Woman, and there are 2 more that I have made that you'll see later.
All right. And I suppose I should be polite and introduce myself. Hi, I'm Derek. I own the channel, and I also made a hero. All right. So, let's get right into it. This is Card Draw Woman. So, why don't we start off with a... do you want to start with like a brief overview of how the character works?
Yeah, so Card Draw Woman is the 3rd hero in sort of an ongoing joke where people make heroes that are the embodiments of certain mechanics in Darkstone. The first hero is called Damage Man, created by Damage Man. We still don't know who he is. The second one was Healing Man, created by Dragon Nova, and I am the third beat in this comedic punchline. So Card Draw Woman does basically nothing except draw cards. All of your abilities will gain you CP, draw cards, or both, or some combination of the two. And you also have a stats effect called Card Search, which is you discard cards to draw more cards. And generally just kind of like trading resources to draw cards in various ways. The way you win the game is by using Card Crush, which does 20 damage, and you get Card Crush every time you go through your entire deck. So there's a little mini puzzle going on where you probably want to get Card Crush twice to do 40 damage, and then you need to find 10 damage somewhere else, which you can do with a couple of abilities and a couple of cards. And this is basically just a hard control hero where she starts the game very, very weak, but will eventually draw enough cards to deterministically win the game, and you have to kill her before that happens. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Card Draw Woman.
All right. So why did you decide to make Card Draw Woman of all the characters in the universe that you could make?
Yeah. So this was actually not originally going to be in the set. This was our backup hero. So as we were kind of like heading towards Pride Month, I wanted to add a backup hero to our brainstorming server for Pride Collection in case somebody had to drop out. And there's like a couple of heroes in particular I was eyeing that like these heroes might end up not getting finished, so I want to have a backup. And I wanted a hero that would be like somewhat easy to make, like that wouldn't take a while, but that would still be appreciated by the community. And I was thinking I wanted it to kind of be a bit. So I was like, we have Damage Man, we have Healing Man, why not Card Draw Woman? And I liked the idea of it being Card Draw Woman because it breaks the pattern of the previous heroes, and I can say she's trans, and that's why she's in Pride Collection, which is like it was kind of in on a technicality, but that will be a recurring theme this set. So that it is what it is. And I liked the idea of card draw in particular because I thought this could be the most compelling of the heroes in kind of this lineup. Damage Man is somewhat fun, but like way too strong. Because it turns out if the only thing you do is damage, your opponent dies way faster than you do.
I think that Damage Man's problem is also that he just has abilities that are on rate and also 2 extra damage a turn.
Yeah, and the balance is a little off, but like in any case, damage band is way too strong. And then healing man is just boring as hell. So I was like, card draw is kind of interesting, and I can put CP gain in here too. I can basically I could make like a fixed version of Shadow Thief because at her core, card draw woman is pretty similar to Shadow Thief. So I liked the idea of this kind of being like half of a bit where like, yeah, this is a joke hero, but I think it plays pretty well. Like, I don't know, this is not the best hero I've ever designed, but I think it's better than Shadow Thief. So like I'm on the target.
All right. So there isn't really any hero who plays exactly like Card Draw Woman. So how did you approach designing these like abilities and like mechanics on the character? And also because you have worked on other homebrews before, I'm curious if any other previous homebrews that you've worked on or any other like heroes in general inspired the design of anything here.
I was definitely thinking about Shadow Thief when I was designing this hero because I knew her kind of like end game was going to be similar to Shadow Thief. So I started by thinking about what do I hate about Shadow Thief. For those not aware, Shadow Thief is my least favorite hero in all of Dice Throne. And I hate him, and he sucks. And if you disagree, get into a large fight in the comments. So I was like, what do I hate about Shadow Thief? How can I address that on a hero with kind of like a similar game plan? So one of the things I hate about Shadow Thief is his ability to prevent all the incoming damage. Card Draw Woman very specifically cannot do that. She can prevent a max of 3 on the defense, then there's not this time, and then there's another card that prevents damage in your deck, and that's it. So she has very limited resources to prevent damage. This prevents her from getting to completely lock the game down once she's drawn enough cards. The opponent can still hit you, and the hits still matter. Especially in Shadow Thief's case, because once Shadow Thief gets set up, he basically locks out defendable damage for the rest of the game. Card Draw Woman does not do that. Her defense starts the game good. Like I think her defense is above average off the top of my head, but it stays that way. Like it never gets ridiculous as the game progresses. It ensures that defendable damage is always relevant. One of the other things I wanted to do with Card Draw Woman is ensure that you have to deal defendable damage to your opponent. One of the issues with Shadow Thief is that if he wants to, he can never activate the opponent's defense, which is unhealthy. So I specifically set this kind of ecosystem up so that Card Draw Woman is probably going to hit the defense a couple of times. Card Crush does defendable damage, so your opponent gets at least 2 shots to roll their defense and maybe do some damage back to you, prevent some damage. And then you probably have to go to abilities on your board that deal damage. Painful Cards, which is your combined straights, does defendable damage, and it's generally like Painful Cards is a pretty kind of like normal turn 1 for this hero, and it allows the hero to kind of play fair for at least a couple of turns, and then the rest of the turns are allowed to be unfair. 3 to 4 cards also does undefendable damage, which ensures that heroes that care about taking undefendable damage for whatever reason can still get their value from that. I did end up. This is going to be a hero that does not deal damage very often because she's too busy drawing cards. But I wanted to make sure the damage was still there. So it's not like completely pure Card Draw Woman, but again, I want this to be a hero that actually plays and functions. So that's the sacrifice we have to make.
All right. So I was there with you as you were designing the first iterations of Card Draw Woman, and the first iteration of Card Draw Woman was extremely powerful. So powerful that she could stand toe-to-toe with her older brother Damage Man, who, as we've said, is way too good. So you went about like lowering her power levels. So how exactly did you do that?
It was actually funny because when we were initially testing this hero, she was still a backup. So we were kind of like thinking it would be funny if we end up not needing the backup, I release this hero as like a matchup with Damage Man. And the idea is this hero is balanced against Damage Man and nobody else. I thought that idea was hilarious. We did end up using this hero as a backup and is now part of the actual set, and so I wanted to bring her down to official power levels. I still wanted her to be strong because this hero is really hard to optimize. You are drawing lots of cards every single turn. And you get there's a lot of decision space in your turns about which cards you want to play, which cards you want to sell. As we'll kind of talk about with the hero's mechanics, I intentionally make it even harder to decide what to do with your cards because that's the complexity space this hero wants to play in. So this hero is kind of hard to optimize. This is especially true with what abilities you activate because it is often difficult to figure out how to draw lots of cards. The first deck cycle is really daunting as Card Draw Woman. Because you are low on CP, you're low on cards, you have a 40 card deck, you're not exactly sure how you're going to get through this entire thing once, let alone twice. So I still wanted her to be on the strong side. One of the things I did was I decided to kind of like bring up the power of card search and then bring down the degree to which you get it. Originally, later cards gave you 2 card search. I decided to just make it 1 card search so that you're more vulnerable to status effect removal. And so the card search feels kind of more hefty when it's on your board. This is especially important because it's the only interactable status effect in your kit. Card Crush is untouchable, so you can't remove or transfer it. So I wanted card search to be like something that's really worthwhile to remove. I also one of the changes I made to Cardra Woman is originally she had a 33 card deck, and I thought a very interesting way to nerf her would be to add 7 more cards to her deck. So originally I think she had 6 upgrades and 8 unique cards. Now she has 8 upgrades and a lot of unique cards, like 12, 14 unique cards. Something around that. So that makes the first cycle harder. And it stresses the importance. One of the things I want to play with this hero is if you're going through your entire deck, playing upgrades becomes a little more valuable because then you don't see the upgrades the second time, which is like a really hilarious thing to have to think about for any other hero, but it's like pretty significant for Cardra Woman. So it's kind of like a short-term versus long-term element of the upgrades. It's like, do I sell this for the value now, or do I play it for the kind of like imaginary value of not seeing this card a second time in my second cycle through? So adding more upgrades makes that more interesting because now there's 8 of them, and like that decision point happens more often. In addition to, it makes the hero weaker because it takes longer to get through your deck. I thought the idea of adding more cards to this hero, because like the first iteration of Cardra Woman that we played was super fun but super overpowered, which is a fine situation to be in. Like I take that over a lot of other things, but it does kind of create a tricky situation of like, how do we nerf this hero without taking away the fun? And I thought adding more cards to the deck was a very effective nerf that didn't take away the fun. Like, this hero is still fun, and there's more of it. More card draw.
So, Cardra Woman, because of these extra cards, will get Card Crush slower, but I gotta wonder, from Cardra Woman's perspective, what does she think of these extra cards?
What do you mean?
So, like, you added more cards to her deck, right? And I remember that most of these cards are, like, just drawing extra cards. And, like, you have to expend economy to do so, but it creates a bit of a quest situation when you want to draw more, right? By fulfilling the requirements. So then the question is, well, does Cardra Woman want the Card Crush more, or does she not even think of this as a nerf because she just loves drawing the cards so much?
Oh yeah, she thinks this is a buff. I actually was able to convince her that this is a buff because she gets to draw more cards. She reminds me of like a character in like a comic book or whatever that is like accidentally destroying the world. Like she's just having fun drawing cards. She doesn't care about the like destruction she wreaks upon humanity in the process.
Great. Makes sense.
Great question.
Also, as a note, most of these questions are questions that Amy has been able to see before and, review and come up with an answer for. And there are a handful of questions which are curveballs, which she has no idea about. And we're coming up on the first one.
Oh, no.
First question is, if you had a button that replaced all instances of Shadow Thief with Card Draw Woman, would you press it?
Okay. Is instance Shadow Thief with Card Draw Woman?
All instances.
I think I would. So here's my defense.
Including in memories.
Okay. So everyone has forgotten about Shadow Thief.
Yeah, and all the memories are like sloppily pasted over with Card Draw Woman.
So I guess the question is, how long do I have access to this button?
You press it now or never.
Okay. Why? This is such a hard question. On one hand, I think Cardra Woman is better designed than Shadow Thief. Cardra Woman is way easier to beat than Shadow Thief because she's locked into the control strategy. One of the things that makes Shadow Thief so oppressive is that Shadow Thief can actually masquerade as a mid-range hero or an aggro hero if he wants to, which makes him really difficult to counter. I would argue almost impossible, unless you print something that says if your opponent is Shadow Thief, they die. Cardra Woman's a lot easier to counter because she's just drawing cards. And if you can kill her fast enough, that's all she does. She still would be one of the weaker heroes in terms of design in Dice Throne history, but I think it solves a lot of meta problems. I think Cardra Woman is weaker than Pyromancer.
Pyromancer's not a high bar.
I think she is. But she's like this will knock the best hero in the game by a decent margin out of the game, which is I think a positive. I think in terms of aesthetics, Carja Woman is less interesting than Shadow Thief. Shadow Thief I think is a really important part of Dice Stone history, in his aesthetic and especially the way in which he kind of like breaks the fourth wall. Carja Woman also does that, but like much more bluntly. I think it is a weird kind of ethical question to ask me to erase people's memories, including my own. So that's like, I think I would be hesitant to press the button simply for the preservation of memories, in the sense that we can live in a world in which people are aware of Shadow Thief and Carddraw Woman, rather than just live in a world where people are only aware of Carddraw Woman. If it was just like, press this button and Carddraw and like Shadow Thief becomes a homebrew and Carddraw Woman becomes an official hero, I would probably press the button. I think if we're going to erase people's memories, I think I'm just going to not press the button based solely on ethical principle, even though I do think it would make Dice Stone a better game.
Great. That's the kind of answer I was looking for. All right. I knew that your autism would come in handy here.
Yes, it always does.
All right. So, next question. Card search. It seems like a strange mechanic to me, right? You got like you add like an entire extra symbol to the kit with like, you know, values at the corners and whatnot. So I am wondering, what does this mechanic serve? Like, why did you choose to use this mechanic over something that's just like, you know, during upkeep you discard a card and draw 2, right? And then like something like that. And is there an earlier version of Card Draw Woman that like lacks or otherwise has a different thing that you tried with this mechanic?
So card search has always been in the kit, and there's a couple of reasons why I like it. So the first is that I want to create sort of like modality to the cards you draw, because like every Dice Stone player has, not every Dice Stone player, a lot of Dice Stone players have done the whole song and answer. They play Shadow Thief, draw all their cards, and then use those cards to win the game. And like, it's like, oh, I drew my knot this time. I guess I prevent 6 damage with it. You know, people are familiar with that experience, and I wanted to kind of like challenge that a little bit. So the goal of the card search token is to encourage you to discard your good cards, which is like a kind of like for control heroes like blasphemy. So for example, not this time is a +3. So if you discard not this time, you draw 3 cards. You basically get a free triple up. Is a free triple up better than not this time? Is a question you have to ask yourself.
It's more like 4 cards. At least that's how I think of it, right? Because you get the 1 base. So you convert this into a quadruple up.
Right, but you could discard like a card that has no search value and draw 1. So it kind of depends. It kind of depends on what your other options are in your hand. So it's like you draw a bunch of cards, but then you don't have this not this time anymore. You might draw it again because you're Card Draw Woman, and you go through your entire deck at least once probably. But is that worth it? That's kind of a greedy play. Other stuff of that variety, So Wild is a +2. Like, do you need this dice mod? Can you go draw more cards? So it's kind of a greed element. One of my core beliefs in design is that any game worth playing has an element of greed. And Dice Stone has lots of that baked in, and I think like leaning into it a bit more is on theme for the game. One of the other interesting things about it is I can put search values on upgrades, because as I mentioned, upgrades are a little interesting on this hero, because if you play them, you won't see them again when you reshuffle your deck. But if you discard in the card search, you can get some cards, and since upgrades quickly become some of the worst cards in your deck, that can often be a free discard, but now you're going to see these cards again because you haven't played them. So I liked search values are like disproportionately on the basic cards compared to the unique cards, because the unique cards are the new part of this hero. This is the thing that people haven't seen before. People are very familiar with the basic cards, I assume, if they're playing this hero. So I think spicing up the basic cards in this sense allows card search to be a very like a kind of like greed testing status effect, where it allows you to use your cards in different ways at the cost of losing your best cards. So that's kind of like the mechanical reason why card search is the way it is. There's a funnier reason why I designed it the way it is. A couple months ago, we posted a teaser for Pride Collection. It was like a Mark Rosewile style teaser where like it's some funny tidbits about stuff that's in the set. And one of the ones was a hero alters their basic cards significantly. And that was for a different hero, and that was the hero that got scrapped that Card Draw Woman replaced. So I really like the idea of like in doing this mechanic, it actually like fulfills that requirement. Like it's not really a requirement. We've actually I'm pretty sure one of the other teasers we did at that point has been is no longer applicable to the set. But I liked the idea of like circling the square. and or square in the circle. I forget which way it goes. Of like this thing that was originally going to be for another hero that we teased is now also in this hero, so it's still true. I thought was like it was like a funny like 2-person stuff thing. Obviously, I didn't make Cardsters the way it is just to fulfill that, but it was a nice cherry on top.
All right. So next up is the second curveball question.
Oh no.
So, one of your favorite official heroes is Paladin, and I was wondering if the naming convention of Paladin at all influenced your choice of abilities here.
So, not really Paladin. I actually don't think I thought of Paladin at any point when naming these abilities. What I did think of is Damage Man. Damage Man does this bit as well, and I think Healing Man does it too. I'm more familiar with Damage Man. Damage Man's abilities, there's like the basic attack is just called damage, and then there's like pure damage, there's straight up damage, there's uncertain damage, that's like the overpower-esque ability. There's there's undefendable damage, and then there's like ultimate damage, so on and so forth. And the I think the defense is called like reactive damage or something like that. So I liked the idea of like every ability being like including the word cards. I was also thinking of Dungeon Mayhem as I was doing this. Dungeon Mayhem is a character that's like there's a card that's like 1 thrown dagger, and there's a card that's like 2 thrown daggers, and then there's a card that's like 3 thrown daggers, and there's one that says more daggers, and there's one that says all the thrown daggers, which is like I thought was hilarious, and the art for the hero like backs up how hilarious that concept is. So that's kind of what all inspired me for the ability names here. Because now we have a card, we have uncertain cards as a callback to uncertain damage. We have later cards. We have 3 to 4 cards, which I thought was a funny ability name because this either gives you 3 or 4, whether you use it as a micro ult or a mini ult. And then the last kind of like the last punchline in these card names is the ultimate just being named Cardicopia 2, and then performing all of the effects of Cardicopia 2, which I thought is like I was originally thinking it would be kind of funny if this hero was like Shadow Thief in disguise. And like when you resolve the ultimate, she like takes the mask off. We didn't go in that direction, but I think it's just funny that she like channels the power of Shadow Thief for her strongest ability.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next up, when it comes to both Healing Man and Damage Man, they both had an account on Discord that just like has the hero publish themselves. And you didn't do that for Card Draw Woman, so I'm wondering why you didn't do that.
I didn't wanna. I don't have a significant justification for this. It would have been. I think it would have been a little tricky to set up because I am releasing all of the heroes in Brad Collection in the form of announcements. I also one of the things that like slightly annoyed me with the rollout of Damage Man is like the subterfuge that has resulted from people trying to like find out who Damage Man is. This is a part of like society that has always confused me of like trying to like understand the identities of people that clearly want to be anonymous. Cough cough sleep token cough cough. And I'm pretty sure that Damage Man is just some random person who has not made a Dire Stone hero before and thought it would be funny. And it's not like anyone we know. It's just some person. And it's always like slightly annoyed me. Healing Man was going to be anonymous, but Dragon Nova fucked up. He had bad operational security, and we figured out who it was almost immediately. So for this, I'm not gonna try to be sneaky. I'm not trying to be clever. I also want, because this is Pride Collection, I want to be proud of the stuff that I have made and the stuff that other people have made and contributed to. So this is my hero. I made Card Draw Woman. You know now. You know who to complain to.
All right. So there's a lot of cards in Card Draw Woman's deck, and I'm wondering what your favorite upgrade and action cards are.
So yeah, funny story for my favorite upgrade, which is Uncertain Cards 2. I think this is your favorite too.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So originally the printed ability on the upgrade was the original base ability, and part of the nerf was changing it to what it is now. So instead of drawing 2 cards for every 6 you roll, you draw 1 card for every 4 or 5 you roll. And it's like you might be asking, Amy, why does it matter? Because like you draw the same number of cards either way. Like they both give you like 5/6 of the card on average, or 10/6 of a card on average, or whatever it is. And the difference is this one is way easier to use dice mods on. You can play 6-it on this uncertain cards roll, and it's often worth it because you pay 1 CP to draw 2 cards. You can convert your dice mods into double ups, which is very very strong on a hero that can win the game just by drawing cards and does not need to like go to a payoff ability like Shadow Thief does. So I was like this uncertain cards thing of like drawing, like activating this as your end game and drawing a bajillion cards. It's like not what I want the hero to do. But it's funny, so I relegated it to an upgrade. So now if you want to do that, you have to play the upgrade. The upgrade does very little else, and it provides no actual value to the ability, so it's like a very risky proposition to try to play this. Like you have to invest a good amount of resources now to get value later. But I thought the effect was so funny, I just wanted to keep it on in the kit somehow so people can experience it. Something Derek did to me when playing Card Woman was saying I'm going to activate my ultimate and then activating on certain cards and changing all the dice on the right to roll to 6s and saying this is like Card Woman's secret second ultimate of like drawing 10 cards off of this
better ultimate.
This really easy. Yeah, it's better than the ultimate, but you have to do it in one roll. Of like it was like the comedy of that I just loved. So I wanted to keep it in the hero. Is it a good balance decision? Probably not, but if I wanted to make good balance decisions, I wouldn't have made this hero in the first place.
I mean, there's certainly probably less balanced upgrades that exist in Dice Throne.
Oh yeah, this doesn't hold a candle to Pyroblast 3. But yeah, and you also wanted my favorite unique card.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of unique cards in here, and I wanted to continue. Again, I wanted to keep going with the vibe of like every unique card has the word card in the name. I actually, as a side note, one of the things I do is I kind of borrow some stuff that already does that from Official Dice Throne, like Cursed Cards is just reprinted on this hero. I mean, it works really well. I think it works better on this hero than it does on Cursed Pirate. No offense to Cursed Pirate. But like Cursed Cards just works really well here, so I'm just going to reprint it. And then, there's more stuff like that, more kind of callbacks to existing Dice Throne things, but in the vibe of card drawing. But my favorite unique card, and I don't think it's particularly close, is card building. I came up with it. I don't remember how or when I came up with this idea, but as soon as I wrote it down, I was like, everyone's going to love this. And the reactions I've gotten from playtesters when they see this card is absolutely great. Like everyone is laughing their ass off as they are resolving this, with the implication that Card Woman is a deck builder, in the sense of like getting like remove cards from your deck to make it stronger the second time around. And the idea of removing cards in your discard pile from the game and that being worth 1 CP is like being worth a card and a CP is like so silly, and like would make like you would never play this card on any other hero, like not even Shadow Thief would ever play this. But like I think it's worth it on Card Woman. It's hard to tell. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes it is, and you have to decide. And I like that. Originally, this card was a cantrip, where you would also draw a card in addition to removing cards into this card. But I thought that made it too free. Where it was like you weren't investing enough to get this effect, and it's now it's more exciting in my opinion, of having to like again it's like paying a good number of resources now for value later, value that is kind of hard to put a number onto, but it's there, and you have to decide if you can take those kinds of risks right now or not, and that depends on the matchup, and that's what Dice Throne's all about, baby.
All right, so this is like the third iteration of the joke of like, we do like Damage Man, then Healing Man, now we have Card Draw Woman, and then you mentioned the word punchline. So I've got to wonder, it's like, do you think that there is much room for a fourth like mechanic person in the world, or like more in the future?
Yeah, I know people were joking about like CP guy or like CP person. So it's like, comedy comes in threes, and this is the third. This is the third bit of this joke of Damage Man, Healing Man, Card Woman, and I intentionally designed this hero with the intent of being the third bit in a punchline. With that being said, I don't really expect like if somebody like 2 months from now is like, hey, I have CP guy, I don't think it's gonna be funny. Like just a heads up, if you have the urge to create CP guy or CP person or I don't know, status effect NB, I would wait a while, and like maybe a year or more, to let this joke kind of like settle down and then come back to it. But yeah, this will be the last you'll hear from me of this because it's like the trilogy is done, in my opinion. I have also like hinted in the hero at a bit of lore of like Cardinal Woman is the younger sister, and Damage Man, Healing Man, and Cardinal Woman are all in a family, and they all hate each other. Um, and you might see a little sprinkle of that lore come into play later in Pride Collection. But yeah, I kind of have we have the mechanic person verse fleshed out a good bit. I would probably say if Cardinal Woman is the last, I would be quite happy with that. I think this is a funny and fitting ending to the saga of ridiculousness that Damage Man has unleashed upon us.
All right. And now, when I sent you these questions, you said that you wanted me to add a question asking about Cartridge Woman's place in the larger homebrew/art world. And quite frankly, I'm like, I wasn't able to quite fathom that. I like sat on that for like a couple of minutes. I'm like, I have no fucking clue what you want me to ask here. So my question is, what do you want me to ask?
I got it.
You ask yourself. Great.
I can just Derek doesn't really need to be here. I can just go on a rant myself.
Okay.
It's like you're disposable. I'm kidding. I appreciate you being here.
Hi.
So yeah, I mean, like Cardinal Woman is not like Cardinal Woman is funny, but funny stuff has larger messages associated with it. And one of the things we want to focus on this Pride Collection is like these heroes do not just exist as like dice thrown game pieces. They are queer characters. They are created by queer people in a time where being queer is such a profound and dangerous and unique look on life nowadays. And I think I want to give a bit of attention to like how those manifest themselves in the homebrew. This is this hero is in Pride Collection on a technicality. I decided it would be funny if she was trans, and that's the entirety of her queer experience. She exists as a joke. So in that sense, I'm not inherently making any sort of like profound statement on queer experience or the state of queer representation or whatever. I guess I am making a statement on queer representation in the sense that this hero is queer because it would be funny, and like to get it in on a technicality, and for the bit of like the first two were men, this one's a woman, and for like I remember somebody in playtesting was like, can we call her card draw chick so it's the same number of syllables? And I'm like, no, it's funnier if it's the wrong number of syllables. This is like third beat. But like in the larger world, what this kind of says is like you don't have to take queer representation too seriously, as long as it kind of like comes from a place of joy. You can make things that are fun. You can make things that are jokes. My favorite genre of TV is comedy. And I can watch a drama or whatever and get like a profound philosophical statement on life and experience or whatever, but I indulge in lots of that every day by existing, and I think a balance of taking things seriously and jokes is a large theme of Pride Collection 2025. You will see in these interviews, you'll kind of see that manifest where some heroes are silly and give you a good laugh, and some heroes are dark and serious. And we wanted to stress that in the release of this set.
Yeah, definitely the way that I see stuff is like when it comes to stuff being queer, and I guess like any sort of representation, it's important to like remember that it's not about like stuff being serious. It's about just stuff being like people, right? I think that there was this era of television in which, because people worry about misogyny, people would always represent women as like really capable and like just as good as the guys or like better than the guys and stuff. And then it's like that I don't think was actually very good for being progressive, because it was like, it kind of gave the impression that like, they had to be like serious and competent, but if a woman wasn't those things, then like, what are they? Right.
Right. Yeah. And like the most important thing I think for art is for it to be human.
Like Card Draw Woman. Yes.
But like the design, as to kind of quote a meme that I'm pretty sure is a meme, but you keep saying it. The design of this hero is very human. This is something only a human would make because it's so stupid, and that's what makes it great.
Great. All right, and now it's time for the last curveball question.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So,
I heard you and Oakley laughing about this one, so I'm scared.
how do you know it's this one?
I feel like you saved the best one for last.
Okay. So, Cardra Woman is trans, and that implies that she has an assigned gender at birth. So, how was Cardra Woman born?
Okay. So you're asking me to make up lore on the spot.
I'm just asking you the question. You
Okay.
raised the question yourself as soon as you said Cardra Woman is trans. You imply then that she had a previous form in which like someone assigned a gender to her, or like somehow it got assigned. So like, what's missing here? Like, what's the rest of the puzzle?
Okay, so imagine like a Big Bang scenario.
Uh huh.
And so, because like this trilogy of heroes are mechanics of a board game called Dice Throne,
Uh huh.
and so they are, I would say, they are the children of Dice Throne, and as like it kind of like a I don't really know. I think it might be like a Greek mythology thing where like somebody accidentally gets born out of like some sort of like elemental event or whatever. I don't know if it's exactly Greek philosophy or if it's religion or something, but I feel like this is like a thing that happens in mythology. And I'm imagining like Dice Throne is created, and these characters just kind of like pop out of it
Uh-huh.
as their like collateral damage, or their collateral damage, or collateral healing, or collateral card draw,
Isolated
respectively.
is better.
Oh yeah, of course. Um, so to answer your question of to answer your kind of implied question of like who are Cardra Woman's parents, Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay, obviously.
Okay.
Answering the question of how Cardra Woman was born, in the same way that Dice Throne was born, um, a lot of playtesting.
All right. Great.
You too can playtest a game 1,000 times and birth your own card draw person.
Thanks. All right. So I suppose that concludes the questions. So do you have
Um,
anything else to say? Anything else to write us off on?
um, I'd say card draw.
Card draw. Card draw.
Yeah, card draw.
Try drawing a card now.
Oh, give me a second.
No, from. I guess that works too. But I was thinking like
To
how
draw a
card draw
card.
woman. Okay. I don't think
So
that's
I'm not an artist.
that's a prism. That's a that's a box.
It's a
not
really
a card.
thick card.
Oh, here, let me try to draw a card.
Okay.
Okay.
That's so loud.
There we go.
Nice.
Here,
like
and now it's gonna be now I'm gonna make it a box too.
Okay. A box with a little tail.
There we go.
Mouse.
All right.
It's a mouse box.
And let's see, not these cards. All right. I suppose that will conclude the interview. So yeah, check out Pride Collection 2025 when it is when the rest of it's out.
Yep. Zagreus and Cardra Woman are out now. Tune in next week. We've got 2 more heroes coming out, and we'll see you then.
All right.